The UK is home to some incredible roller coasters, some standing tall, some standing uniquely in a pit, and one that goes upside down 14 times. However, with all these amazing roller coasters, you may stop to ask yourself, what actually is the UK standout coaster? And that is what I'm going to be talking about today. And if you go on to enjoy this video, make sure to subscribe. Alright, let's get on to the video. Now, obviously, when you think of UK roller coasters, the first ride that comes to your mind is going to be Hyperia. And that is because it's the tallest and the fastest roller coaster, standing at 236 feet tall. I got it right this time. Now, Hyperia is more of a coaster experience type of coaster, if that makes sense. As in, there's not much theming. However, I think what makes this ride stand out so much is its height, obviously, and its speed, because it's the fastest in the UK, going at 80 something miles per hour. I don't know the exact number, I'm sorry. However, what may put people off this ride may be its length. I think there's loads of elements in this ride, and I think it's the perfect length, to be honest, because yeah, I just do. And also the lack of theming in the ride. Even though the station looks good in the inside, out the outside it looks like a giant shed. Well, it could be worse. I don't mind it. But let's be honest, there's not much theming on the ride. I think the soundtrack's amazing, but there isn't much theming. There's not much to it in terms of the theming. How many times am I going to say theming in the next minute? Yeah, that's what may put people off Hyperia, and that may be the reason why they say it's not their standout coaster, or why they don't think it's the standout coaster for the UK. But on the other hand, something that isn't as tall and as fast is Nemesis Reborn, located at Alton Towers Resort. Now, obviously, Nemesis Reborn is one of the most iconic coasters in the UK, and it's a B&M invert that makes your feet feel like they're going to crack against the rock. What makes this ride so special is the theming and how it looks visually, and how it's just built into the ground. I think it's really cool. Obviously, it's built into a giant pit, which is obviously, that's unique. That's already making the ride unique. And also, I think the theming towards the aliens and the phalanx is absolutely incredible. And yeah, it's a really intense ride as well. However, people may also disagree to the fact that it is the UK standout coaster, and that's because of its height again. Obviously, Alton Towers can't build above their tree level, so they have to get a bit creative with their rides, as you can tell. So it's not going to stand out in terms of height, but visually, I think it is one of the best. And moving on to something that is pretty cool visually is the Smiler at Alton Towers at the same park. Around a 30-minute walk away because everything's so far away from each other. Now, the Smiler is a Gerstlauer infinity coaster with 14 inversions. It's the most inversions on any roller coaster in the UK. I mean, in the world. What am I on about? Now, what people may think makes this ride the standout coaster is due to the amount of inversions it has. It has 14. And if you're standing and looking at it from a distance, it just looks like a giant knot. Yeah, it looks crazy. John Wardley, what were you on when you were designing this ride? And I think the theming is also pretty good as well. I think the soundtrack is pretty flippin' annoying, but I think it makes the ride so unique as well. However, people might be put off by the roughness of the coaster. Now, it's not too rough, it's a bit janky in some corners, and people might find it a bit underwhelming due to the fact it's just inversions over and over and over and over and over. And I completely understand that. I understand that. I've had a lot of people coming to me and say that they think the Smiler is overrated and it's not that special. I've heard people say that Solar Ride is better, and I don't agree with that, obviously. But that may put people off the Smiler. Obviously, Alton Towers cannot build above tree level, which means they have to get creative again. Now, moving on to our next roller coaster that people may, for some reason, say is our standout coaster, and that is Stealth at Thorpe Park. Now, I have nothing against Stealth. I love that ride. But it's not the UK standout coaster. Even though I love the theme to Amity Speedway and how it's themed to like a race car. Well, not a race car. What am I on about? But I think just because of its height, it doesn't make it the UK standout coaster. However, people may think it is the UK standout coaster because of its acceleration, which is 0 to 80 miles per hour in 1.8 seconds. I still don't think it's the UK standout coaster though. That's just me. If you think that it is, then fair enough. And I'm moving on to our next ride. At the same park is the Swarm at Thorpe Park. There's no way I think this is the UK standout coaster. Even though I think the theming is one of the best themed areas in the UK, it's not the UK standout coaster. Now, the Swarm is a B&M wing coaster located in the Swarm Island area at Thorpe Park. And it's the first wing coaster to have a wing over drop. Now, maybe that's why people may think it's the UK standout coaster, because it has that wing over drop. I strongly disagree. Now, I think the Swarm's an amazing ride. It's my second or third favorite ride at Thorpe Park. But I just don't think it has the qualities, apart from the theming, to make it the UK's big coaster. you know what I mean. UK Standout coaster. Now, if you do think it's the UK Standout coaster, then fair play, cause the theming's pretty good, but no, not for me. And I believe the same thing about the next ride on this list, which is still the ride. If you think that this is the UK Standout coaster, then you need to get some help. I'm being serious. And the next one is the big one. This was originally the UK's tallest coaster before Hyperia took it over. I'm sure Blackpool are happy about that. But obviously, the reason why people may think it's the UK Standout coaster is obviously because of its height. Even though it's not the tallest, because of its height and maybe its history. That's all I can think about, because the ride experience is really rough. And now moving on to my thoughts. Now, the reason I put this ride down as the UK Standout coaster is I think it just looks the most visually appealing. Even from a far distance, it just stands out. And I've put Hyperia at Thorpe Park. I think to have that kind of roller coaster in the UK is just insane, and I think that just sets the tone. What am I talking about? And I just think it's amazing to have that level of a ride in this country, because when you see these rides, they're usually in America, but we have them in the UK, and at Thorpe Park, I'm really close to it as well, so I'm happy about that. Obviously, with the likes of Nemesis and Smiler, Nemesis Reborn, I think it looks visually appealing. It's one of my favorites, but I just think Hyperia stands out a bit more. And when I mean stands out, I think it stands out from a distance as well. If you enter Thorpe Park or even just drive past it on the motorway, you're gonna see Hyperia just stand out because of how tall it is. However, with Nemesis, you're not really gonna see that. Obviously, when you enter the area of Nemesis, it's gonna stand out. It's gonna look amazing, and I think it's probably the best looking coasters in the UK. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I didn't explain my opinion really well, and I'm sorry about that. However, if you have any different opinions to what I have, then let me know in the comments. It's always interesting to hear what you guys think. And subscribe. Take care, everyone.